I spent the last 3 months traveling all over Japan eating the regional specialties in different prefectures. I learned a lot as I went, and these are the top 5 travel tips for eating and traveling around Japan that I wish I would have known before I started. Many train stations in Japan are incredibly large and confusing, and if you have a terrible sense of direction like me, it's inevitable you're going to miss a train, or two, or five eventually. Traveling in Japan is relatively cheap, with the exception of the Shinkansen. Tickets for the bullet train are pretty expensive. But if you do happen to miss your train, you can take a future train on the same route with the same ticket in a non-reserved car. This one tip alone would have saved me hundreds of dollars if I knew this. If you want to try some new foods that are on the fancier side, but also want to be budget conscious, a lot of restaurants will offer lunch menus that are similar versions of their dinner menus, often for about half the price. It's also a lot easier to get a seat without a reservation if you go before noon, but going as early as you can is always the best option. And if you're solo traveling most of the time like I was, it can be pretty hard to make a reservation sometimes, as a lot of websites won't allow reservations for one person, and sometimes you need a Japanese address or phone number. With regard to hotels, I stayed in everything from cheap capsules to fancier hotels with complimentary food and drinks, and I found a mix of them worked the best for different reasons. Hotel prices really increase on Friday and Saturday nights, whereas hotels with shared sleeping quarters really don't. I usually spent weeknights in hotels and weekends in capsules or pods, and in my opinion, the best value hotels I stayed at were pod hotels. They're basically the exact same as capsule hotels, except the pod is a small room instead. On average, they cost me about 4,500 Japanese yen per night, and that usually included breakfast as well. Staying at hotels that offered both capsule or pods, as well as regular rooms, usually came with much better amenities and more comfortable common spaces. I tracked the cost of my accommodations for the last 65 days, and I would stay at each of them again except for these two. I spent an average of $63.89 Canadian per night, but I easily could have reduced that, and I plan to on my next trip to Japan. This Amano hostel was the only place I stayed at that I won't recommend. It didn't even feel like Japan. There weren't any lockers, so everyone's laundry was just in the sleeping areas. This also wasn't even cheap. It cost $15 more than my average accommodation. The other hotel I won't revisit was actually really clean and comfortable and served 24-hour soup, rice and pickles, and even had unlimited drinks at night, but the smoking area was inside the lounge area. I always hear how cheap and good the food is at convenience stores in Japan, but it's really not. The quality is a lot lower than what you'll find at a grocery store, and also probably around 20 to 40% more expensive. If you're having trouble finding a grocery store, just look for a shopping center. There's always one on the bottom floor. And chances are you'll be buying water or other drinks every day, and they are substantially cheaper at grocery stores. Seriously, look at the selection of grocery store pre-made foods, and this is just a regular one. And the sushi looks like this for less than $15. And my most important travel tip has to do with when you're leaving Japan. It is imperative that you mentally prepare to once again sit on your primitive, medieval, non-heated toilet. I'm trying my best to warn you, but nothing will truly prepare you for it. Especially in my case, when I came back to Canada and it was about minus 20, and the first time I sat down, it felt like someone was stabbing me with icicles. Japanese toilets are truly a luxury you shouldn't take for granted. Anyways, those are my top 5 tips for eating and traveling around Japan. Thanks for watching.